Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into an incredibly focused look at a highly influential historical text. We are going to unpack its core structure, map out its specific worldview, and really understand exactly how it draws these stark, uncompromising lines between belief and disbelief. So let's get ready to decode the binary of belief. Our primary source today is Kitab At-Tauhid, or the Book of Monotheism, written by Shaykhul Islam Muhammad bin Abdul-Wahhab. Now, this book carries immense historical and theological weight. To be clear, our goal here isn't to inject our own commentary, but to impartially map out exactly what the author was communicating. His stated mission was basically to acquaint the Islamic world with the basic, unadulterated teachings of the Qur'an and Sunnah. And we're going to explore exactly what that meant to him and how he categorized the world around him. Okay, let's dive into this roadmap. We'll be covering 1. The mission of the book, 2. Defining true monotheism, 3. The superiority of Tawhid, 4. The dangers of shirk, and 5. Condemned practices. Section 1. The mission of the book. To really grasp this text, you have to understand the specific historical context. You have to look at the problem the author believed he was solving. The publisher's introduction praises the text for, quote, taking them out of the darkness of polytheism and error. Because, according to the text, when the author looked at the prevailing religious landscape of his time, he didn't see pure Islam. Instead, he saw a landscape completely flooded with heresies and dangerous accretions. And right here is where we see a massive ideological conflict. The author looked around and observed practices like seeking refuge with the dead or asking assistance from saints. Now, to the broader mainstream Muslim world at the time, these were totally standard accepted Islamic traditions. But the author's strict ideology framed this mainstream culture as absolute polytheism. It sparked a massive clash, one that he resolved to fight against up to the extent of jihad, really aiming to uproot what he saw as deeply entrenched polytheistic views. Section 2. Defining true monotheism. If the prevailing practices were the problem, the author's solution rests on a single, crucial Arabic term, Tawhid. The text defines Tawhid as singling out Allah alone in worship and being entirely sincere in his oneness. The author frames this not just as some casual, abstract belief. No, this is the strict, practical, functional meaning of the Islamic testimony of faith. La ilaha illallah, there is no true God but Allah. And he anchors this definition directly in Scripture, right from chapter 1, citing the verse, "And I created not the jinns and men, except they should worship me alone." The text uses this to establish that Tawhid isn't just an option, right? It is literally the foundational reason for the existence of all mankind and jinns. So the crucial point is how the text addresses the exact opposite of this pure worship, introducing the concept of Tahut. The text defines Tahut as all false deities, basically anything worshipped other than Allah. What's absolutely fascinating about the author's logic here is the sequence. The text explicitly asserts that true worship of Allah literally cannot be performed until Tahut is explicitly denounced and rejected first. It's a total prerequisite. You can't just add Allah to your existing list of loyalties, you have to actively clear the slate of everything else. Section 3. The superiority of Tawhid. So once this pure monotheism is established, what's the spiritual payoff? Well, according to the text, the ultimate reward for maintaining this uncorrupted belief is huge. It provides total security and physically recompenses sins. A key hadith cited in the text states that Allah has actually forbidden hell for the person who sincerely testifies to this truth, seeking nothing but Allah's pleasure. The text strongly emphasizes that maintaining pure Tawhid is the ultimate safeguard for a believer, securing paradise regardless of what their other deeds might be, just as long as that core belief remains uncompromised. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer, unimaginable weight the author assigns to this concept. The text shares this really striking hadith involving Musa, or Moses. Imagine a massive scale. On the left side, you place the 7 heavens, everything contained within them, and the 7 earths, essentially the entire physical universe. On the right side, you place the simple declaration of faith, La ilaha illallah. According to the text, that single declaration of pure monotheism would literally outweigh the entire universe. It's a powerful visual to show that absolutely nothing is heavier or more important than Tawhid. Section 4. The dangers of shirk. In this stark binary framework, if Tawhid is the ultimate good, then its opposite has to be the ultimate evil. The text defines this opposite as shirk, or polytheism. It means associating partners with Allah. The author doesn't treat this as just a simple slip-up. The text frames shirk as the absolute ultimate vilification of Allah. It's presented as the singular root cause of mankind's infidelity and deviation. If Tawhid guarantees salvation, shirk completely nullifies your faith, entirely wiping out whatever other good deeds you might have done. And the author is incredibly methodical here, breaking shirk down into highly organized categories. Beyond major shirk, which is explicitly worshiping others, he introduces minor shirk, which means doing religious deeds for worldly reasons. And then, even more subtle, is hidden shirk, which the text describes as showing off, acting pious just so other people will notice you. So the danger here, according to the text, isn't just out there in the world. It's a deeply internal danger too. Section 5. Condemned practices. Now, this is where the theology really hits the pavement and affects everyday human life. Look at the table of contents here. It showcases just how methodical and detailed the author was. He wasn't just talking in abstract, high-level theological terms. He went directly after specific, deeply ingrained societal practices of his era. He explicitly lists out unacceptable actions, dedicating entire chapters to dismantling them based on his strict interpretation of monotheism. Let's rapid-fire through some of these specific actions. The text condemns wearing rings, twines, or amulets for protection. It forbids seeking blessings from trees or stones. It prohibits slaughtering animals in the name of anyone other than Allah. It strictly outlaws sorcery and magical spells, and puts a heavy ban on believing in soothsayers, omens, or astrology. By strictly categorizing all of these as acts of shirk that destroy a person's tawhid, the text was essentially declaring war on the standard cultural practices of mainstream Muslims of that era. Now, what's really interesting about the slide is how the text handles the concept of intercession, asking a righteous figure to pray to God on your behalf. It creates a very sharp, almost legalistic boundary. It affirms intercession, sure, but strictly states it is exclusively for the people of Tawhid and only happens by the direct permission of Allah. On the flip side, it completely rejects any intercession that involves shirk, particularly condemning excessive dogma surrounding righteous persons or grapes. You can clearly see how the author is actively working to dismantle the prevailing mainstream customs of seeking help from saints at their shrines. And that brings us to our final thought. The text we've explored today relies heavily on stark, absolute categorizations. In this framework, you are either practicing pure tawhid or you are falling into the darkness of shirk. There's not a lot of middle ground. So I leave you with this question to reflect on. How does this strict, uncompromising definition of monotheism continue to shape religious boundaries and practices in our modern world? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this provided you with clear, structured insight into a massively influential text. See you next time.